Hi students, this short video is about homework 4. I encountered a couple of issues that might cause you to have some questions about a few problems on the homework. They are problems 6, 13, and 20. So let's take a peek at problem number 6. Problem number 6 says a company's insurance checks police records for 586 accidents selected at random and notes that teenagers were at the wheel in 92 of them. Construct a 95% confidence interval for the percentage of all accidents that involve teenage drivers. So my hint was for you to use StatCrunch. So if you attempt to do that, you are brought to this page of a textbook that we are not using. So that's not going to be helpful. We're going to X out of that. Instead, what we're going to do is, let's in fact X out of the homework and leave it. Before you even start the homework, since that is a problem, open StatCrunch. And we're going to go to the StatCrunch website and open it. So you'll notice this is the tab that has an open StatCrunch. So now let's go back to our home page and go back to our homework. So the big idea is to open StatCrunch before you start homework 4, then it will be available in the one of the tabs. So in homework 4, let's go back to the problem number 6. The same question, we want a 95% confidence interval. So since we know question help isn't going to work for us, what we're going to do is we're going to slide this little box aside and go up to the tab that says Open StatCrunch. And since this one involves proportions, we're going to go under Stat. We're going to pick Z-stats, actually proportion stats, for one sample with the summary data. The number of successes in this problem was 92. There were 92 teenage drivers out of 586, and the problem wanted a 95% confidence interval. So we're going to compute that, and we're going to jot down the boundary values, 0.1275 and 0.1865 if I'm rounding. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're not going to X out of that. We're going to just minimize it. So we're back to the problem, and we want it to one decimal place, and we want it in percent form. So that would be 12.8% and an upper bound of 18.7%. And we're going to check our answer, and that works. Okay, so let's see what happens when we go to problem number 13, which is also kind of problematic. So the next problem I'd like to look at is problem number 13, which talks about the average percent of flights that will leave on time. We have some sample statistics based on 72 flights that 80.9% leave on time with a standard deviation of about 2.8. The question help is not useful because when we go to StatCrunch, we come to this page that is not referenced in our textbook. So we're going to slide things down. We're going to open StatCrunch. I'm going to X out of this. And we're going to enter stat. And this would be Z-stat because it's about means, one sample with the summary. And I'm going to quickly type in the sample mean, standard deviation, and sample size. So you see, I took a moment to type in the sample mean, standard deviation, the sample size of 72, and switch this up to be a 90% confidence interval. So when we hit compute, we get a lower boundary of 80.3845 and an upper boundary of 71.47. So I'm going to go back to the homework. This was question number 13. And I typed those values in, I checked them, and they are okay. The next problem I'd like to look at is problem number 20. So problem number 20 talks about Hispanic representation in the jury. 20% of the Hispanics, adult residents, are Hispanic. 70 people were called to jury duty, and 11 of them are Hispanic. Is this violate or indicate an underrepresentation of Hispanics in the jury selection system? So the null hypothesis is the true proportion is 20%, and the alternative is that they are underrepresented, it is less than 20%. So we're asked to compute the z-statistic and the p-value. Once again, the way to do that is to use StatCrunch, which is not available through the problem solving. So we're going to go into the StatCrunch that we opened up earlier. This is proportions, so we're going to do stat, proportion stats, one sample with summary, and out of 70 jurors that were called, that's the number of successes, there were 11 Hispanics out of 70, and we want to test the null hypothesis that 20% of them are Hispanic versus the alternative, then less than 20% of them are Hispanic. And we're going to compute that. We get a z-score of minus 0.8964 and a p-value of 0.185. So we go back to the homework. This would be question 20. And as you can see, I typed in the z-score from my stat lab and the p-value from StatCrunch as well. So the moral of the story is for 3 problems, 6, 13, and 20, what you need to do is before you start homework 4, you're going to open StatCrunch, leave it minimized so that you can access it during those 3 problems.